Bohemianism is the practice of an unconventional lifestyle, often in the company of like-minded people, with few permanent ties, involving musical, artistic, or literary pursuits. In this context, Bohemians may be wanderers, adventurers, or vagabonds. This use of the word Bohemian first appeared in the English language in the 19th century to describe the non-traditional lifestyles of marginalized and impoverished artists, writers, journalists, musicians, and actors in major European cities. Bohemians were associated with unorthodox or anti-establishment political or social viewpoints, which often were expressed through free love, frugality, and in some cases voluntary poverty. A wealthy and privileged, even aristocratic, Bohemian circle is sometimes referred to as the haute bohème. The term Bohemianism emerged in France in the early 19th century when artists and creators began to concentrate in the lower-rent, lower-class, gypsy neighborhoods. Bohème copyright mean was a common term for the Romani people of France, who had reached Western Europe via Bohemia. Origins: European Bohemianism. Literary Bohemians were associated in the French imagination with roving Romani people, outsiders apart from conventional society and untroubled by its disapproval. The term carries a connotation of arcane enlightenment, and also carries a less frequently intended, pejorative connotation of carelessness about personal hygiene and marital fidelity. The Spanish gypsy in the French opera Carmen set in Seville, is referred to as a boa copyrightman in Mielhack and Halle copyright vis libretto. The term bohemian has come to be very commonly accepted in our day as the description of a certain kind of literary gypsy, no matter in what language he speaks, or what city he inhabits. A bohemian is simply an artist or little copyright auteur, who, consciously or unconsciously, secedes from conventionality in life and in art. Henri Murger's collection of short stories Scarnes de la vie de Bohème, published in 1845, was written to glorify and legitimize Bohemia. Murger's collection formed the basis of Giacomo Puccini's opera La Bohème. Puccini's work, in turn, became source material for Jonathan Larson's musical Rent. Like Puccini, Larson explores a bohemian enclave in a dense urban area, in this case New York City at the end of the 20th century. The show features a song, La Vie Bohème, which celebrates postmodern bohemian culture. In England, bohemian in this sense initially was popularized in William Makepeace Thackeray's novel, Vanity Fair, published in 1848. Public perceptions of the alternative lifestyle supposedly led by artists were further molded by George du Maurier's highly romanticized best-selling novel of bohemian culture Trilby. The novel outlines the fortunes of three expatriate English artists, their Irish model, and two very colorful Central European musicians, in the artist quarter of Paris. In Spanish literature, the bohemian impulse can be seen in Ramón de del Valencien's play Luces de Bohemia, published in 1920. In his song La Bohème, Charles Aznavour described the bohemian lifestyle in Montmartre. The film Moulin Rouge! Also reflects the bohemian lifestyle in Montmartre at the turn of the 20th century. American Bohemianism. In 1845, Bohemian nationals began to emigrate to the United States, and from 1848 the wave included some of the radicals and ex-priests who had wanted a constitutional government. In New York City in 1857, a group of some 15–20 young, cultured journalists flourished as self-described bohemians until the American Civil War began in 1861. Similar groups in other cities were broken up as well. Reporters spread out to report on the conflict. During the war, correspondents began to assume the title Bohemian, and newspapermen in general took up the moniker. Bohemian became synonymous with newspaper writer. In 1866, war correspondent Junius Henry Brown, who wrote for the New York Tribune and Harper's Magazine, described Bohemian journalist such as he was, as well as the few carefree women and light-hearted men he encountered during the war years. San Francisco journalist Bret Harte first wrote as the Bohemian in the Golden Era in 1861, with this persona taking part in many satirical doings, the lot published in his book Bohemian Papers in 1867. Harte wrote, Bohemia has never been located geographically, but any clear day when the sun is going down, if you mount Telegraph Hill, you shall see its pleasant valleys and cloud-capped hills glittering in the west. Mark Twain included himself and Charles Warren Stoddard in the Bohemian category in 1867. By 1872, when a group of journalists and artists who gathered regularly for cultural pursuits in San Francisco were casting about for a name, the term Bohemian became the main choice, and the Bohemian Club was born. Club members who were established and successful, pillars of their community, respectable family men, redefined their own form of bohemianism to include people like them who were bons vivants, sportsmen, and appreciators of the fine arts. Club member and poet George Sterling responded to this redefinition. Any good mixer of convivial habits considers he has a right to be called a bohemian. But that is not a valid claim. There are two elements, at least, that are essential to bohemianism. The first is devotion or addiction to one or more of the seven arts. The other is poverty. Other factors suggest themselves. For instance, I like to think of my Bohemians as young, as radical in their outlook on art and life, as unconventional, and, though this is debatable, as dwellers in a city large enough to have the somewhat cruel atmosphere of all great cities. Despite his views, Sterling associated very closely with the Bohemian Club, and caroused with artist and industrialist alike at the Bohemian Grove. Oscar Ferdinand Telgman and George Frederick Cameron wrote the song The Bohemian in the 1889 opera Leo, The Royal Cadet. The impish American writer and Bohemian Club member, Gelett Burgess, who coined the word blurb among other things, supplied this description of the amorphous place called Bohemia. To take the world as one finds it, the bad with the good, making the best of the present moment to laugh at fortune alike whether she be generous or unkind to spend freely when one has money, and to hope gaily when one has none to fleet the time carelessly, living for love and art this is the temper and spirit of the modern Bohemian in his outward and visible aspect. It is a light and graceful philosophy, but it is the gospel of the moment, this exoteric phase of the Bohemian religion. And if, in some noble natures, it rises to a bold simplicity and naturalness, it may also lend its butterfly precepts to some very pretty vices and lovable faults, for in Bohemia one may find almost every sin save that of hypocrisy. His faults are more commonly those of self-indulgence, thoughtlessness, vanity and procrastination, and these usually go hand in hand with generosity, love and charity. For it is not enough to be only a unregistered trademark self in Bohemia, one must allow others to be themselves, as well. What, then, is it that makes this mystical empire of Bohemia unique, and what is the charm of its mental fairyland? It is this: there are no roads in all Bohemia. One must choose and find only a unregistered trademark's own path, be only a unregistered trademark's own self, live only a unregistered trademark's own life. In New York City, an organization of musicians was formed in 1907 by pianist Raphael Josephy with friends such as Reuben Goldmark, called the Bohemians. Near Times Square Joel Rinaldo presided over Joel our unregistered trademark's Bohemian Refreshery, where the Bohemian crowd gathered from before the turn of the 20th century until Prohibition began to bite. In May 2014, a story on NPR suggested that positive attitudes towards living in poverty for the sake of art are becoming less common among young American artists, and quoted one recent graduate of the Rhode Island School of Design as saying her classmates showed little interest in living in garrets and eating ramen noodles. People, the term has become associated with various artistic or academic communities and is used as a generalized adjective describing such people, environs, or situations. Bohemian is defined in the American College Dictionary as a person with artistic or intellectual tendencies, who lives and acts with no regard for conventional rules of behavior. Many prominent European and American figures of the 19th and 20th centuries belong to the Bohemian subculture, and any comprehensive list of Bohemians would be tediously long. Bohemianism has been approved of by some bourgeois writers such as Honoré Copyright de Balzac, but most conservative cultural critics do not condone Bohemian lifestyles. Lauren Stover, the author of the bombshell Manual of Style, breaks down the Bohemian into 5 distinct mindsets or styles in Bohemian Manifesto, a field guide to living on the edge. The Bohemian is not easily classified like species of birds, writes Stover, noting that there are crossovers and hybrids. The 5 types devised by Stover are: Nouveau Bohemians with money who attempt to join traditional Bohemianism with contemporary culture; Gypsy, the expatriate types, they create their own gypsy ideal of nirvana wherever they go; Beat, also drifters, but non-materialist and art-focused; Zen, post-beat, focus on spirituality rather than art; Dandy, no money, but try to appear as if they have it by buying and displaying expensive or rare items such as brands of alcohol. Maxwell Bodenheim, an American poet and novelist, was known as the King of Greenwich Village Bohemians during the 1920s. And his writing brought him international fame during the Jazz Age. In the 20th century United States, the Bohemian impulse was famously seen in the 1940s hipsters, the 1950s Beat generation, the much more widespread 1960s counterculture, and 1960s and 1970s hippies. Rainbow gatherings may be seen as another contemporary worldwide expression of the Bohemian impulse. An American example is Burning Man, an annual participatory arts festival held in the Nevada desert. In 2001, political and cultural commentator David Brooks contended that much of the cultural ethos of well-to-do middle-class Americans is Bohemian-derived, coining the paradoxical term bourgeois Bohemians, or Bobos. Former Bohemian communities, by extension, Bohemia meant any place where one could live and work cheaply, and behave unconventionally. A community of free souls beyond the pale of respectable society. Several cities and neighborhoods came to be associated with Bohemianism in the 19th and early 20th centuries: Europe, Malá and Žižkov in Prague, Bohemia, Montmartre and Montparnasse in Paris, Chelsea, Fitzrovia, and Soho in London, Beyoğlu in Istanbul, Mitte in Berlin, Schwabing in Munich, Skadalica in Belgrade, Tarbian in Budapest, Kadu Sojra copyright, Moraria, and Alfama in Lisbon, Way 3/4 Upis in Vilnius, Cardiff in Wales, United States, Greenwich Village, New York City, North Beach, San Francisco, California, New Orleans, Louisiana, Venice Beach, California, Topanga, California, Carmel by the Sea, California, Provincetown, Massachusetts, Boulder, Colorado, Austin, Texas, Asheville, North Carolina, Tiburon, California, Tarrytown, Chicago, a district named for the old water tower, nearby, Key West, Florida, Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington, Canada, Kensington Market, Toronto, Australia, Fremantle, Western Australia, Newtown, Sydney, Potts Point, Sydney, Fitzroy, Melbourne Street Kilda, Melbourne, Montsalvat, Melbourne, Nyman, New South Wales, New Zealand, Takaka, New Zealand and Nelson Abel Tasman National Park, Newtown, New Zealand in Wellington, Taitarangi in Auckland, Kingland in Auckland, Grey Lynn in Auckland, T5 in Taranaki. See also, references. Bibliography, Easton, Malcolm. Artists and writers in Paris. The Bohemian Idea, 1803–1867. London, Arnolder, Graw plus or minus a, Car copyright Tsar. Bohemian versus Bourgeois, French Society and the French Man of Letters in the 19th Century. New York, Basic Books. ISBN A0-465-00736-8. Parry, Albert. Garrets and Pretenders, A History of Bohemianism in America, Cosimo, Incorporated. ISBN 1-59605-090-X, Stansel, Christine. American Moderns, Bohemian New York and the Creation of a New Century. Henry Holt and Company. ISBN A0-8050-4847-2. Wilson, Elizabeth. Bohemians, The Glamorous Outcasts. Torres Park Paperbacks. ISBN A1-86064-782-0. Further reading, Levin, Joanna. Bohemia in America, 1858 to 1920. Stanford University Press. ISBN A978-0-8047-6083-6. Siegel, Gerald. Bohemian Paris, Culture, Politics, and the Boundaries of Bourgeois Life, 1830 to 1930. The Johns Hopkins University Press. ISBN A978-0-8018-6063-8. External links, Bohemianism and Counterculture.